plant peoples. Doc coming at you with my door open. There we go. Doc coming at you for episode 5 of Botany for Bonsai. Bonsai 5 by 365. Episode 5. It's a lot of 5s. But what we're talking about today is going to be one more kind of brief side topic before we get into cell biology proper. And today's questions are, what types of trees, plants, or trees can be made into a bonsai? And what's the difference between an indoor and an outdoor bonsai? I'm actually going to start there because this is a really common misconception that I've come across numerous times with people, even gardeners, plant people in Western society especially, because I've come across it numerous times where I live in the United States and where I'm from in Canada. People think of bonsai as an indoor art form. They think of them as houseplants, essentially. This really could not be further from the truth. As a general idea, bonsai are really only indoor plants or indoor things. Bonsai can only be done indoors with plants that can grow indoors. And generally speaking, trees do not do well inside. Deciduous trees, try to grow them inside is almost impossible. Tropical trees, it can be done, especially lower light ones. Think fig tree. I have a banana right over here right now that's been inside with me for the winter. Although, as we talked about, bananas are not generally thought of as trees. They're botanically speaking. A banana is a giant herb. Although banana tree, it's open. Anyway, most trees either vastly prefer or will only survive if growing outside. And bonsai there is mostly an outdoor art form. My bonsai that I grow, I have a collection of deciduous bonsai native to the northeastern United States, native to where I live here in western Massachusetts. Those trees I leave outside for the winter, or some of them I bring into a sheltered area because of not wanting the roots to get colder than they would get below ground in the winter here. But generally speaking, if a plant can't be grown as a houseplant, if it's not sold in a nursery as a houseplant, it probably can't be grown indoors as a bonsai without a lot of knowledge and a lot of effort. Generally speaking, if you live in a temperate or cool climate, you want to keep your bonsais outside in the summer. The ones that are deciduous, leave them outside. The ones that are evergreen, for cold climate evergreens, pine, white pine for example, leave it outside. And provide obvious protection to more tropical trees for the winter. There's gray areas, things that are Mediterranean native, olive, pomegranates make excellent bonsai, but that's more in-depth than I want to get to in this brief overview on this rate here today. We will cover that in future topics, possibly even in a species spotlight. The other part of the question here is, what type of tree can be made into a bonsai? And I want to fall back to our working definition of what is a tree. Not the scientific botanical definition, but our working definition for our purposes here. If you look at a plant and you think that's a tree, then it's a tree. If it's a tree, it can be made into a bonsai. It's a very basic kind of guidepost. It needs to be perennial. Obviously, if it dies back every year, it's not going to make a very good bonsai. And it needs to have a woody stem. After we get a little more into the botanical structure of trees and we start talking about the vascular Cambrium versus the wood, the stem, wow, am I drawing? After we talk about the two different kinds of Cambrium, after we get into the structures, of what makes up a tree, a little more detail, the xylem, phloem, how trunks expand. We'll cover this in much more detail, but for now, if it has a woody trunk, it can be made into a bonsai. Perennial woody trunk, end of story. So, does that mean that every single species of tree can make an equally good bonsai? Of course not. There's a reason that species such as Japanese white and black pine, Japanese maple, I guess those would probably be the most common three, but fig trees are often used, tiger bark ficus being the one that's used a lot, and Ficus benjamina are the two figs that are used a lot. However, and then of course, juniper species are commonly used as bonsais, especially sold as quote-unquote bonsais in garden centers and Home Depot and Walmart and things like that. You get a little common juniper in a pot that's been trimmed to an odd little pointy shape and sold for $80 instead of $10 and called a bonsai. Not to say that it's not a bonsai, but it's not yet a bonsai. It's a bonsai in training. So anyway, for our purposes and in general, not die back. It can be deciduous, it can lose its leaves, but if its stem stays woody, so it's a perennial plant with a woody trunk, woody stem, you can make a bonsai from it. But some are better than others, and we'll discuss those reasons in much, much greater detail going forward. Things like leaf size, ability to reduce leaf size, ability to grow something in a pot, the root structure, the type of roots that a plant grows, all of these things factor in to whether it makes a good bonsai material or not, and we'll cover these in much greater depth going forward. So for today, take care, plant peoples, and I'll talk to you soon.